So you've decided to buy in an HOA community. There are a lot of acronyms throughout real estate, and there's going to be a lot more within the HOA itself. Let's get clear on what the HOA documents are and what you should be expecting. My name is Andrew Finney, and my passion is helping you make sense of real estate. If you need help finding a top agent near you, or if you simply want to drop me a line to say hello, my contact info is below. If you're new here, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel now and like this video. Thank you. All right, my friend, by now you are probably like, hey, there are a lot of acronyms in real estate. There's like DTI with a lender, which is debt to income ratio. There's CC&Rs when it comes to an HOA, covenants, codes, and restrictions. There are so many different acronyms. Well, let's provide you a little bit of peace of mind and clarity whenever you're looking at now what we call the HOA documents, or real estate agents will normally refer to as your resale package, and what you're going to be getting a copy of with your new homeowners association. The first set of documents that you'll receive are the Articles of Incorporation. You might be wondering what the Articles of Incorporation are. To put it simply, Articles of Incorporation are, like any small business, a homeowners association must file Articles of Incorporation with the Secretary of State where they're located. Even though those documents could be publicly available, the Articles of Incorporation do not contain that much information. They realistically will have generally the entity name, the location, the purpose, and the incorporated community name at large. So if you ever wondered, how do I find an HOA? Now we know we can go to the Secretary of State business site and type in the name of the homeowners association and be very quick to locate who's in charge and where to contact them at. The second document that you'll receive is any pending litigation that the HOA may have out. Now, pending litigation with an HOA could be in the form of somebody suing the homeowners association. It could be in the form of the homeowners association suing somebody else, a contractor, or whatever the case may be. Now, not all homeowners association will have pending litigation. Some will. So would this make it a bad deal for you if you're buying within an HOA that has pending litigation? Not necessarily. You just need to be clear on what the pending litigation is, what it's about, and who are the attorneys of record handling the files. That will be contained as part of the documents if there are any pending litigations against the HOA that you're buying in. The third set of documents that you'll get will be the bylaws of the association. When we're thinking about that, it can be kind of an interesting thing. Some people are like, well, what is that? Why do I care about it? Well, it's actually pretty important. And let's keep it simple by just understanding that the bylaws of the association provide the rights of which the incorporated entity will be enacting the current rules and future rules, and the process it goes through to do that. It is actually from the bylaws that homeowners associations declare the rights of the association itself. The way that they do this is through a duly elected board of directors for the HOA. Now, when we're talking about duly elected, what this is going to mean is that when you buy into an HOA community, you'll have the opportunity to participate in voting for the board of directors, in addition to becoming one of the directors of the board if you wish to run. Think of your HOA essentially as a constituency within your own community. Everybody that owns a property in there has the right to vote and the right to run for the board. It is by this board of directors that the rules within that community will be enforced. It is by this board of directors that any rules in the bylaws, or CC&Rs being the covenants, codes, and restrictions, are changed. It is this board of directors that you have elected that will be governing your HOA. There are 5 core components that are often associated with the bylaws. Number 1 is the number of the HOA members permitted on the board. The second is the number of board members necessary to qualify as what's called a quorum necessary to vote on any specific measure or matter. The third is how often elections will take place. The fourth is if there are any term limits for board members. And the fifth is who has the right to cast a vote for the board members. It is important to note that in many areas that the person who has the right to cast a vote in that HOA is actually the legal homeowner of the property. So if you're somebody that's renting within an HOA, you probably aren't going to have the opportunity to vote. Now, you could express your concerns of the HOA that you may have with your landlord and ask them to vote a certain way, but ultimately your landlord, the person that is entitled to that property, has that right to vote. Everybody else in there that owns a property will also be able to vote. The fourth set of documents that you get are your CC&Rs. CC&Rs is an acronym for covenants, codes, and restrictions. Now, this is what can make a lot of paper happen really quickly. So I want to give you a pro tip here. And if you're already pretty computer savvy, awesome, rock on. So ideally what will happen is you'll receive these documents in digital format. That is the way that we as trusted real estate advisors tend to give them to our clients these days. It saves a forest of paper in the process because your CC&R section can actually be anywhere from maybe 100 to 500 pages depending on how your HOA is ran and where you're exactly buying. So The pro tip here is to use Control F on a PC, which will pop up a search bar, and you can specifically go and narrow down exactly to what your concern is. If you have a question during this process, you're like, hey, you know what are the landscaping rules? Can I paint my house a certain color? You can use the Control F feature on your PC and be able to pop up that search bar. It'll highlight everywhere that keyword is used. On a Mac, then just use Command Alt F and that'll make that happen for you as well. Both of them behave the same, and both of them will help you narrow down to what's most important to you in the CCRs as quickly as possible by just using that quick hack. Now, that being said, if you're in the process of buying a house right now and you get a copy of your CC&Rs, here in Las Vegas, Nevada, for example, you would have received in your buyer disclosures what's called buying in a CIC disclosure. Essentially, a CIC being another acronym for HOA, which is a combined interest community. Kind of the same thing as an HOA. It is the same thing as an HOA, behaves the same way as an HOA, just a different acronym, I guess, in Las Vegas that we like to use. That being said, the important thing that I'm bringing up here is that you would have received a disclosure that in Las Vegas, Nevada, that a buyer purchasing into an HOA community has 5 days right of rescission from the date they receive the CC&Rs to review them. Now, if 5 days and a minute goes by, they will have been considered to consent to it. If there's any objections, then this is a contingency within a contract that they could back out. Usually it's pretty easy to discern how an HOA behaves and operates by essentially just driving into the community and knowing that what you see is probably what you're going to get. That being said, you do reserve the legal right in Las Vegas, Nevada specifically to review those CC&Rs, but you only have 5 days to do it. Check with your trusted real estate advisor where you are and see what kind of rights you have for the time period that you get to review your CC&Rs and make sure you know what's going on. The fifth set of documents are other rules and regulations. It's important to note that essentially what the covenants, codes, and restrictions the CC&Rs do in your community is to provide the guideline how that community is to operate with a set of rules. So when we're talking about other rules and regulations, how did these come to be? They came to be by virtue of the bylaws that we talked about earlier, how an HOA can change its rules, how it can change its practices, how it can either strike a rule or add a new rule. And the idea here with the board of directors is that when they have other rules and regulations that come to be, what they're looking at is how best to preserve the community, how best to protect the community, and how best to ensure it's a safe community based upon the definitions defined by the constituency you, the homeowner, right, and your neighbors have agreed to do and live by. Such a thing could be as simple as a speed limit. Let's say initially the speed limit was set at 25 miles an hour. Now let's say that there's a lot of kids in the neighborhood or a lot of people that like to walk their dogs, and they're starting to think, hey, 25 miles an hour is too fast. The board of directors by vote could actually implement a rule to say, hey, we're gonna knock down the speed limit to 10 miles an hour or 15 miles an hour, or we're going to put some speed bumps up throughout the community to keep people from speeding. That would be such a measure that could be another rule or regulation by making a simple change to the community that will have a massive impact. These rules and regulations can come to be so long as they do not violate the original set of covenants, codes, and restrictions or the bylaws themselves. They do not take the place, nor do they supersede any federal law, local law, or state law. All HOAs must be in compliance with the state, the local law, and the federal law at large. And the sixth set of documents that you'll get are the financial documentation for the HOA. Now this is really important to gain some insight on. Even if you're not like an accounting guru or whatnot, you know whenever you see something's in the black or something's in the red, right? The financial documents show how solvent, in other words, how much money that HOA has on hand. It is a nonprofit organization. It's not there to profit off of people. It's not that kind of a business, right? It's not that kind of an entity. It's there to make sure that it has sufficient cash reserves to protect the community, to enforce the rules, and also to maintain their obligations of the community. One case in point would be like if you live in a golf course and guard gated community. Well, the guards have to be paid, the gates got to be maintained, the golf course has to be maintained, and then you're always going to have utility bills. Same thing is true as if it had a clubhouse. What if you have like common features, common walkways, and they're always, you go out and you walk your dog and you notice there's always little pet pickup bags to pick up your dog's waste. Well, that's getting paid for by the HOA. So when we consider this, we want to make sure that HOA has solvency. In other words, they have money in the bank. Go ahead and take a look at that. And if you have any questions, make sure you get with your trusted real estate advisor to look it over with you and say, hey, is this HOA solvent? And your trusted real estate advisor will probably be able to say, well, based upon the numbers, it looks good, but here's what we can do if you have more questions. Why don't we put you directly in touch with the management company of the HOA so that you can air your concerns and ask them directly the questions that are most pressing on your mind. We as trusted real estate advisors are happy to make that happen for you. Okay, so now that you know more about what to expect in your resale package, essentially your HOA documents, right? Now let's take a closer look at 10 ways to deal with your HOA and how to find the best neighborhood for you. Looking forward to our next conversation. We'll see you in a few.